There is an old saying my grandfather used to whisper when he thought I was not listening. Not every hand that reaches for yours is trying to hold you up. Some hands reach because they want to take something before you notice they are gone. If you are over 60, you have already lived long enough to feel the weight of that truth. But have you learned to recognize it before the damage is done? My name is not important. What matters is where I come from and what was passed down to me. I was raised near the edge of a pine forest in a community where the elders still gathered in the evenings to talk. Not to argue, not to complain, to pass things down. Stories wrapped around lessons. Lessons wrapped around love. My grandfather was one of those elders. He lived past 90. He buried friends, outlived enemies, and watched the world change so fast it seemed like the mountains themselves were confused. But he never seemed lost. Not once. I asked him once, when I was still young enough to be foolish, what his secret was. He looked at me for a long time before answering. I learned early who was walking with me and who was only walking near me. That is all. I did not fully understand that until I was older, much older. And today I want to share with you what he taught me and what life later confirmed, about recognizing when someone has come into your world not for you, but for what they can take from you. This matters more after 60 than at any other time in life, because by then your resources are real, your time is shorter, your patience has limits, and your peace, your hard-earned, deeply deserved peace, is worth protecting with everything you have. Here is something most people do not talk about openly. After a certain age, the nature of your relationships changes. Some people who were once close begin to drift. Children grow busy. Old friends move away or pass on. And in that space, that open, quiet space that loneliness sometimes creates, new people arrive. Some of them are genuine, some are not. And the dangerous ones, the ones my grandfather warned me about, are not the obvious predators. They do not come wearing masks or carrying signs. They come smiling. They come bearing small gifts and large words. They come asking questions that feel like care, but are actually inventory. Do you own your home? Are you close to your family? Who helps you with things around the house? They feel familiar too quickly. They call you by a nickname after the second meeting. They sit close and touch your arm when they speak, as if closeness has already been earned. And somewhere deep inside you, that quiet place that has seen enough of life to know, something stirs. A small discomfort, a hesitation, but then you silence it, because you do not want to be unkind, because you are 60, 70, 80 years old, and you have always been taught that suspicion is uncharitable, that giving people the benefit of the doubt is a virtue, and sometimes it is, but sometimes that silence, that unwillingness to trust your own instincts, is exactly what they are counting on. My grandfather told me about a woman in his community, a widow, strong, capable, generous. After her husband passed, a distant cousin began visiting more frequently, brought food at first, then favors, then slowly questions about the land, the savings, the arrangements she had made. Within 2 years she had lent money she never got back and signed over decisions she later regretted. She was not foolish, she was lonely, and loneliness, he said, is the open window that lets the wrong spirits in. That is why today I want to give you something real. 7 signs. 7 teachings that came from generations of watching, listening, and learning what human nature does when it thinks no one is paying attention. The first sign, excessive interest in what you own. There is a difference between someone asking about your life and someone asking about your possessions. A person who cares about you wants to know how you feel, how you sleep, what you dream about, what you are afraid of, what still makes you laugh. A person who came for the wrong reasons wants to know about your house, your pension, your savings, your car, whether your children are involved in your finances, whether you have a will. They wrap these questions in warmth, in concern. I just want to make sure you are taken care of. But notice how quickly the conversation returns to resources. Notice how their eyes change, just slightly, when you mention something of value. My grandfather called this the hawk's glance. A hawk does not circle land because it finds the scenery beautiful. It circles because it has spotted something below worth waiting for. When someone new in your life circles certain subjects repeatedly, ask yourself, what are they hovering over? The second sign, rushing to create intimacy. True closeness takes time. It is built from shared mornings and hard conversations and the accumulated weight of years. It cannot be manufactured in a few weeks, and yet some people try. They call you every day within the first week, They tell you their deepest secrets before you have even learned their middle name. They say things like, "I feel like I have known you my whole life," or "You are the only one who truly understands me." This is not love, this is a technique. In the old teachings, there was an understanding that some animals moved slowly to avoid detection. They did not rush. Rushing creates noise. Rushing alerts the senses. But warmth, artificial warmth offered too quickly, can lower your defenses in ways that noise never could. When someone offers you intimacy faster than it could possibly have been earned, do not be flattered. Be curious. Ask yourself what they are trying to build and why they need to build it so fast. The third sign, little curiosity about how you feel. This one is subtle, easy to miss, but it is one of the most telling signs of all. People who genuinely care about you ask how you are feeling and then wait for the answer. They notice when your voice sounds tired. They remember what you said last time and follow up. They make space for your sadness, your worries, your small victories. People who came for the wrong reasons ask how you are as a greeting, not a question. They use the pause before your answer to prepare what they are going to say next. They redirect conversations back to themselves or to the subject they actually came to discuss. Watch for this. Not once, but consistently. Anyone can have an off day. But if someone repeatedly shows no genuine interest in the texture of your inner life, your fears, your memories, your hopes, then you are not a person to them. You are a means to an end. The elder does not waste words on someone who is not listening, and you should not waste your heart on someone who is not there. The fourth sign, constant requests for help. There is a sacred exchange that happens between people who truly belong to each other. Sometimes you carry the weight. Sometimes they do. It balances over time. But when someone new arrives and the requests begin almost immediately, for money, for favors, for introductions, for time, for resources, and the balance never evens out, you are not in an exchange. You are being harvested. It starts small, almost reasonable, a loan, a ride, a connection, a signature. Then it grows, and with each request comes a story, a crisis, an emergency that only you can solve. And you solve it because you are generous, because you have always been generous, because saying no feels like abandonment, and you have never wanted to be the kind of person who abandons someone in need. But generosity without discernment is not a virtue. My grandfather said it plainly, "A river that gives to everyone eventually runs dry." The river has no obligation to water those who do not plant. Protect your river. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been preserving from these old ways, the lessons about silence, aging, inner peace, loneliness, and the things the modern world slowly made people forget, I have written it all down, gathered the way the elders once passed wisdom from one generation to another. It is called The Last Teachings, 60 pages. Written not as a book of theories, but as a conversation, the kind of conversation that used to happen beside a fire, between an elder and someone who needed to hear the truth spoken gently. Inside, you will find teachings that go deeper than what I can share in a single video, about how to recognize the people who truly belong in your life, about how to release the ones who only came for the harvest, about how to find peace inside your own silence. The fifth sign, they disappear when you need them. This one perhaps is the clearest test of all. Everything looks genuine when life is smooth. The person who came for the wrong reasons can sustain the performance as long as the rewards are flowing. They call, they visit, they smile, they say all the right things, but then something shifts. You get sick, you face a loss. You go through a hard season that asks more of them than it gives, and slowly, sometimes quickly, they become unavailable, busy, distant, apologetic in ways that cost them nothing. The elders in my grandfather's community had a teaching about fair weather companions. They called them summer spirits, present in warmth, gone in cold, and the lesson was not to despise them, but simply to know them for what they are, and never mistake them for something more. Real people show up when it is inconvenient. Real people sit with you in the dark. Real people bring their presence into your difficulty without waiting for the difficulty to pass first. If someone in your life disappears precisely when you need them most, they have already told you everything you need to know. The sixth sign, they make you feel guilty for saying no. This is the one that wounds most deeply, because it uses your own goodness against you. When you say no to someone who respects you, they accept it. They may be disappointed. They may ask once more. But ultimately they honor your boundary because they honor you. When you say no to someone who came for the wrong reasons, something darker happens. They sigh, they grow cold, they remind you of everything they have done for you. They tell you that they thought you were different, that they expected more, that they are hurt. And because you are 60, 70, 80 years old and you have spent your whole life trying to be good, trying to be enough, that guilt lands in a very old wound. Manipulation does not always look like aggression. Sometimes it looks like sadness. Sometimes it looks like vulnerability. Sometimes it comes in the form of a quiet withdrawal that makes you feel as though you have done something terrible simply by choosing yourself. You have not done anything terrible. Saying no is not cruelty. It is a complete sentence. It is one of the most honest and self-respecting things a human being can say. My grandfather told me, the person who punishes your no is the person who only came for your yes. Remember that. The seventh sign. You feel tired after being around them. The body knows. It has always known. Long before the mind catches up, the body starts keeping records. And one of the clearest records it keeps is energy. How do you feel after you spend time with someone? Not in the moment. In the moment, people who are performing warmth can be engaging, even electric. But afterward, an hour later, the next morning, do you feel lighter, more like yourself? Or do you feel strangely empty, vaguely anxious, as though something has been taken from you that you cannot quite name? The elders called certain people energy takers, not in a mystical sense but in a deeply practical one. Some people, simply by being in your presence, require more from you than they return. They need your attention, your reassurance, your patience, your care, and they give back very little of the same. Over time, this is exhausting, and that exhaustion is information. Your energy is one of the most precious things you possess, especially now. You have earned the right to spend it only where it is valued, only where it returns to you in some form, only where the exchange is honest. If someone consistently leaves you feeling depleted, trust that feeling. The body is not dramatic. It does not exaggerate. When it tells you that something costs too much, believe it. I want you to pause here for a moment. Think of someone in your life right now, someone you have felt uncertain about, someone who made you feel warmth and discomfort at the same time, someone you have made excuses for, or tried harder with, or stayed quiet around when you wanted to speak. Hold that person in your mind. Now ask yourself, honestly, the way my grandfather asked himself at the end of every day, which of these 7 signs have you recognized? 1, 3, all of them? I am not asking you to become cold. I am not asking you to close the door on everyone who reaches for you. That is not wisdom, that is fear. What I am asking is simpler and more important than that. I am asking you to trust yourself. You are not 20 years old anymore. You do not have the luxury or the obligation of learning the same lesson twice. You have already paid for your discernment with decades of experience, with losses, with moments of being too trusting and learning why that cost you. That knowledge belongs to you now. It is yours to use. There is a teaching that says, after 40 winters, a person has the face they deserve. After 60 winters, they have the circle they deserve. Your circle, the people you allow close to your fire, reflects your wisdom. When you begin to act on what you know, when you stop overriding your instincts out of politeness or loneliness or habit, something shifts. The right people begin to feel the difference. They are not threatened by your clarity. They are drawn to it, because people of genuine character respect a person who knows their own value, and the others, the ones who came only for the harvest, they find easier ground. They move on, and in their leaving you discover something surprising. The silence they leave behind does not feel like loss. It feels like relief. It feels like space. It feels like the first clean breath of air after a long season indoors. That is not loneliness. That is sovereignty. And for those of us who have spent decades giving ourselves to others, sometimes sovereignty is the most healing thing we will ever experience. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Last Teachings. 60 pages written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together beside the fire. Inside, you will find the teachings that took me years to gather. Lessons about solitude that is chosen, not forced. About the difference between people who love you and people who need you. About how to release resentment without pretending it was never there. About the kind of peace that is only available to those who stop trying to earn their place in every room. And with it, you will also receive Miss Completely Free, a bonus teaching called The Secrets of the First Hour, about the quiet habits the elders protected before sunrise, about why the first moments of the day were considered sacred and what they used that time for, about how the way you begin your morning shapes everything that follows. These are not things that are widely written about. They were passed down through presence, not pages, and I have spent years trying to do them justice. The link is in the first comment below. My grandfather died on a Tuesday morning in early autumn. I was there. The window was open. You could smell the pine and the cold coming in at the same time. He had been quiet for 2 days, the way elders sometimes get quiet near the end, not from weakness but from listening to something the rest of us could not yet hear. Just before he went, he opened his eyes and looked at me clearly. He said, "You are going to be fine. Not because life will be easy, but because you will finally stop letting the wrong people convince you that you are less than what you are." I have carried that with me for 30 years, and today I am passing it to you. You have survived enough winters to know what warmth costs. You have given enough of yourself to know when giving has become losing. You have been kind long enough to know that kindness without wisdom is not a gift. It is a wound waiting to happen. So go carefully, not with suspicion but with clarity. Let people earn what they receive from you, not because you are selfish but because you are wise. Because your time, what remains of it, whatever that is too valuable to spend in the company of people who would not notice if it ran out. Surround yourself with people who ask how you feel and mean it, who show up when it costs them something, who celebrate your refusals as much as your generosities, who have never once made you feel that your love needed to be justified. Those people exist. They are out there. And when you begin to create space by releasing the ones who do not belong, you will find them, or they will find you. The fire of a life well lived does not burn for everyone, but the right people from far enough away will always be able to see the smoke, and they will come to it on their own. Thank you for sitting with me today. If this reached something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And when you are ready to go deeper, to sit beside the fire in a longer, quieter conversation, you know where to find me. Until then, walk carefully and guard the fire.